Miss Carol, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited that you're here. It's an absolute honor. I've been having the pleasure of working with you for the last couple of years in so many different things. And so having the opportunity to sit down and get into some of this deep stuff is a real pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine, really. It's a lot of fun for me.
So I guess let's start with your background and I guess how you got into this work. Tell us that story.
Well, I'm from Mexico City. I was born in Mexico City. I'm the fifth of 5 girls. My parents are from the Middle East originally. Well, my grandparents on my mom's side are from Syria and Italy. My dad is from Iraq, from Baghdad, and we're Jewish. So they had to leave. They were being persecuted, right? So they had to leave. So my dad had to leave. They ended up in Bombay, in India. And he grew up there, which now Mumbai, of course. And then when he was a young lad, 15, 16, he then decided that he was going to become an entrepreneur. And he left and he went to Australia and then landed in London.
Wow.
Yes. And then my mom's side was from Syria and Italy. And then they left. Ellis Island had closed. So they ended up in Mexico City. My mom was born in Mexico City. My dad met my mom at a wedding in Mexico City, 14 years apart. They didn't speak the same language. But my dad and my grandparents spoke Arabic. So long story short, they were married They were married for 53 years or 54 years until my dad passed away. And the reason why I'm telling you the story is because if you can imagine growing up, 5 girls, an Iraqi dad, Middle Eastern, very British, right? So formal in many ways. And the mindset was, do what I tell you to do, right? You don't question. And my mom was very much, we are a team, right? So what your dad says. And so growing up in that environment where that's how it is, you don't question it at all. And then being the last of the 5 girls and being the youngest, my sisters always wanted to run experiments on me because I was 5 years younger than the youngest. So they wanted to see, for instance, if the stroller would fly with me in it from the 9th story. So there were many situations where I could have died. And so there were a lot of times where I had to kind of figure out how to end conflict and
stay alive.
Yes. So growing up, it was really how to get out of conflict, how to mitigate conflict, how to help them come together, and then also how to mitigate conflict with my parents. Even down to when we came here, I was the only one that really wanted to go to college because in our culture you get married very young, 16, 17. Because it's either you get married or you go to college. So I was forbidden to go to college. So I went to college without my parents knowing. For a couple of years, I was at UCLA before they knew. And then they knew. And then my world changed. They didn't talk to me for about 6 months. My family didn't talk to me. So all of that, growing up in that environment, really, it just kind of infiltrated into my cells. It allowed me to understand how to resolve conflict innately and how to help others figure out how to resolve conflict. So I think that's why I'm just so naturally good at it.
I mean, you built this natural skill set for conflict resolution. And if you didn't solve the conflict, what would happen?
If I didn't solve the conflict, nobody would talk to anyone. So there would be a divorce in a way for many days, many weeks. So nothing would happen, and that would be the worst.
So that story, that journey took you into coaching, mentorship, business coaching, and now you are the self-proclaimed lion tamer. the lion tamer. Tell us
The
about
executive lion
the
tamer.
executive
yes.
lion tamer.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
The executive lion tamer came about because I was telling a story of how an attorney referred me to another attorney simply because I was working with their firm and I was helping them tame their lions, if you will, the big egos in the firm. And they had referred me to somebody else who was the rainmaker of the firm. And I was having lunch with this guy and he said, listen, Carol, I know what you're trying to do here, but the truth of the matter is that I don't need help. Everybody else needs help and they need to figure it out because I'm bringing in the bulk of the money. And so I said, I get it. I understand. So here's my card. And if there's anyone that you know of that's coachable and that wants to kind of switch their mannerisms around and that wants to work with people, give him my card. And I thought he would throw my card away. And about a month and a week later, he called me and I was really tired, Ashish. And I have to tell you, when I'm tired, I find everything really funny. So he called me and he said, hey, Carol, do you remember me? And he was really in a state of panic. And of course I remember.
Aren't we all? When we call the executive lion tamer, we are not in a place of peace and focus and clarity.
Right. And so I said, of course I remember you. And he said, well, I just threw a chair across the room and hit an associate, grazed her shoulder, really. I found out later. He actually got so angry that he took a chair in the conference room and he threw it across the room and he hit this woman who already had it against him, right? Was already to file a lawsuit. And then he hits her. And so he's like, well, you said I wasn't coachable. Now I'm coachable. And I said, I didn't say you weren't coachable, but, and he said, well, and I said, well, are you calling me because you need better aim? And he got even more mad. He's like, well, this is not funny. This is not a time to joke around, right? And so he asked me if I would work with him, and I ended up working with his firm and with all of the partners, because at the end of the day, it's not just about him. It's not just about the lion. Mm-hmm. It's not about the rainmaker or the person with the big ego. It's about all of us enablers around that lion. That are working around him and tippy-toeing or her, right? Around her. So when I was telling that story, somebody said, a wonderful man by the name of Pete Tentler, who's a reverse mortgage guy who's very creative. He said, you know what you are? You're the executive lion tamer. And Mark Hankin, who is a lovely IP attorney, he had also talked about me being a lion. And so that it all kind of came together.
Love that.
Yeah.
So you work with both leaders and CEOs and executives who get this name or this title that they are lions and or they can be difficult.
Yes.
And they can be incredibly challenging or highly egocentric. I don't know anyone like that. But then also you work with teams. You work with their teams to bridge the gap. Tell us about that process and that experience, because I think a lot of listeners here experience this, whether it doesn't matter what seat you're in, really. I think that there's challenges on both sides. Everything comes from awareness. And so tell us a little bit about that process. What do people gain out of that? What does that process experience look like and feel like?
So when you work with the team, something magical happens. People realize that CEOs, the executives that they work with or work for or work with, that they're human, that they're not untouchable, that they're not so much higher above them that they can't have normal conversations with them. And they see a vulnerability and a transparency to them that they otherwise wouldn't see. And you start to see a transformation in the leaders themselves, because the walls and all of those masks that they feel they have to wear to be successful start coming down. And it allows them to become a more cohesive team with the people that they work with. And it creates a sense of loyalty, this glue that disallows anybody else to poach their team. So you see this immediate transformation. You see this immediate, it's this feeling, this energy. And you see people that have worked there with each other for decades. And sometimes grown men that just start crying because they're allowed to say certain things to each other or to let their guards down.
Is that really your goal, just to make grown men?
You got me.
I figured. That's really what this is all about.
That's my goal.
This is what this is all about.
Yeah.
Do people find that challenging, or like, is it difficult for people to open up about their true feelings or fears after knowing somebody that long? Or it's not a challenge, it's just about creating the right space?
It's really about creating the right space.
And so, leaders can learn a lot from that, about what can we do, whether it's in our family or in our boardrooms or our meeting rooms, to create a safe space for people to be themselves and talk. And
yeah, it's about having that right space, Ashish, and also about having the tools. And I think everyone can learn how to be a good leader, how to be a great leader.
Why do you think that this work is even necessary?
From my experience, and I've been doing this for almost 30 years, I think that most of us, like the surgeons, the attorneys, the CEOs, right, that are wonderful at business, at surgery, at litigation, or whatever the business is, we go to school, right? We go to business school, or we start just doing our business and getting good at it. But we're never taught, like even surgeons, right? We're never taught the people skills side of it. We're never taught how to motivate other people. And so we go into the workplace where we have to literally work with other people, motivate other people, engage other people. And we don't learn that we're just children when it comes to emotional intelligence. We don't take those classes in law school. We don't take those classes in business school. We don't take classes on personal brand and realizing that just as you're taking how to build a brand in your business, you should be taking classes on how to build your personal brand, that you're the CEO of your own life. And that you've really got to pay attention to that. You've got to pay attention to your mission, your vision, your values as a person, and how you bring that to others. That's equally important, if not more important, when you're building your business, or when you show up as a leader in a company where somebody else is the CEO or the owner.
That's good. I like that a lot. I guess what's showing up for me is that I think we all have things that let's say our opportunities.
Yeah.
That are things in our behavior that we know we could be doing a better job at, or maybe no one in our circle of influence has the maybe permission to hold up the mirror to us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But everyone knows, like,
Yeah.
internally we know where we need to improve or what we need to focus on. What would you tell them? Like, what advice do you have for those folks, or what are a couple of tips for us to help, be past the awareness, is to maybe change behavior, take action?
So it's normal. It's human.
So first forgive yourself.
Yes, have grace.
Have some compassion and grace.
Yeah, it's absolutely normal to be human. It's human to be human, and that's okay. And it's also okay to not want to see your blind spots. And you're in charge of that. Like I said, you're the CEO of your own life. And like every business, some businesses thrive, some businesses don't. You're in charge. And just like some CEOs or owners of businesses, they don't want to see their financials. They're ostriches. And some do. So we get to choose if we want to see our blind spots or if we don't.
Yeah.
So
No, one of the things I've been really challenged with recently, and this has shown up for me, and we'll just have the session right now. I
Yeah.
love this, is that, there's this mindset that, and I'm sure a lot of your clients have it, and I know a lot of people listening have it, is that, we strive for this level of excellence.
yeah.
And we want this level of perfection, and we want this level of greatness, and you can define any of those the way you want. And we're always striving for more experience, more richness, more whatever. And we end up not being grateful for what is, like what's right in front of you. And what I think happens in that process is that you forget how to be ordinary. And you realize that you live in this ecosystem of the world where, ordinary is beautiful too. So I guess, do you understand the dichotomy of what I'm saying? Is that I think we end up forgetting that we need to nurture this part of our relationships because it's ordinary, instead of like, why don't you get me? How come you're not meeting me at my level? How come we're not just doing excellent, wonderful things? And why are you not just, why are you not reading my mind? Those kinds of things. And almost building these relationships and dealing with the ordinary types of life, that actually that's where all the magic happens. That's where all the beauty is. That's the presence of dealing with the stuff, the garbage, if you will, that creates the extraordinary experiences.
Yeah. So what you said was really powerful. So what I'm interpreting from you is if you're able to experience and be in the ordinary, that's where the extraordinary happens.
Yes.
And because we're always reaching and striving for something that we don't have, we disallow ourselves from reaching what we're looking for,
Right.
which is the extraordinary. So we're never really happy. Because we reach a certain level and then we want more and then we want more and then we want more. And there's this feeling, at least from a lot of the millionaires and billionaires that I work with, of just general inadequacy, that they're never good enough. And the other thing is, that's really interesting to me, is these people are really very, very intelligent and wise people. And the more they learn, it's almost like the more lost they feel.
Interesting. Why do you think that is?
I think because you realize how much more there is to learn. So the more you learn, you realize the less you know.
Right. And so if your story is that I can outdo my problem and I can out earn my story, or I can be bigger or own more, but you end up realizing that there's just a never ending path to more and more and more, which makes you feel inadequate.
That's right.
Oof, that's scary.
Yes, and the ordinary, bringing back to what you were saying,
Yeah.
is where the magic is. Because you find people that are, they're the ones that are sweeping in the restaurants. They're some of the happiest people in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I just got called out on this today.
Oh?
And I'm just going to share this because I've created this huge idea in my head to create massive impact.
Yeah.
And that can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. But when you identify that what you really are trying to accomplish is just create a significant impact in one person's life, you end up chasing the world's opportunity instead of just focusing on what's right in front of you. And I was doing that for a while, and I got called out on it by a a tribe of people I really love and respect, and I was blessed to be able to have that engagement and experience with them, that they just held up the mirror, and we almost went through this like grief thing of like you're almost in denial and of this trajectory you're on. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but essentially it's really about, how can we just give grace and give almost attention to what's right in front of us rather than chasing the world, right? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are victim to that.
I think so too. And I think that if you do that, that's where you can, if you can meet people not only where they're at, but where you're at. Mm-hmm. I think that's huge. And that's where you can give the most from. Because you're in that space where you're plugged into that energy.
Yeah.
But if you're looking, because the future is not here and the past is gone, right? So where is the most energy? The most energy is here. So where can you give the most energy from? Here.
Well, I didn't mean to get so heavy, because let's go here. And one of the reasons I love you so much is your vibrant and colorful energy. And if you're listening to the podcast, you can't really see, but Carol is wearing this beautiful, vibrant red dress and just speaks to your energy. Tell me about your source of energy. Where does your energy come from? How do you harness it?
My energy comes from a lot of different places. My energy comes from mental energy. So I take very good care of what I read and what I listen to. That's really important to me. So I stay away from things that drain me. And the other piece of energy is what I put into my body. I take care of not to eat a lot of white stuff. So sugar, flour, things like that, I stay away from. The other part is spiritual. Spiritual is very important to me. And I mentioned that I was Jewish, but really it's not so much about the religion or the culture. It's what is about is really honing in on the universal spirituality of the oneness of people. And regardless of the religion or the culture, I've noticed that when I tap into someone's spiritual energy, we are so alike.
Yeah.
Regardless of what religion or what culture we are. And everyone has that spiritual energy, and that's the purpose, where our purpose lies. And everyone has that, but a lot of people don't tap into that. And I tap into it every day.
Yeah.
That gives me the most energy.
I love that. The oneness of all.
Yeah, it gives me the most energy.
I guess in coaching, you really have to, and I'm going to just put your work into the bucket of coaching, so I apologize if that's not where it belongs. But I think that in coaching, in order to be an effective coach, you really have to come from a place of non-judgment.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to be judging the person all day and criticizing and being critical, right? And so I think that's an interesting perspective to show up in the world that way, is if you just come from a place of non-judgment with people, then maybe you have a shot at helping people, whether it's your team or your spouse or your kids. That's fascinating. I like that perspective.
You have to. And the thing is that how can you judge others when you're not perfect yourself?
True that.
Right. Like, who's perfect? None of us are perfect. And I have been in so many situations in my career in corporate where I could have done better, both as a boss and as an employee. And, even what got me to start my own business, right? I could have done things so much better. And so all of those situations, and every day I get better and better. And I think it's this virtuous cycle of really helping each other. As I help my clients, that energy that my clients give me also allows me to help my clients back,
What are you finding in yourself recently? Like, are there things that are showing up for you recently in the work that you're doing?
Yes. I've noticed.
I'm curious, what's wrong with you?
Yes, there are so many things. No. Yes, I've noticed that I catch myself noticing my biases too, right? So with all of our different shortcuts and judgments and biases, I realize I have some too. And when we talk about, what you can say in the workplace, what you cannot say, and I'm coaching my clients and I'm seeing how, how they're getting into trouble. Somebody is getting fired for giving someone a compliment that they thought was a compliment, and coaching my clients on what they can say, what they can't say. And at the end of the day, sometimes I notice myself getting frustrated with, just sometimes people being a little too sensitive. That's my bias.
Let's go there.
That's what I'm noticing in myself lately. I feel
it's
people are too
showing up.
sensitive.
It's funny. I'll give you a real world example, and I think there's a lot of these situations happening in society. We're talking about labeling people and relabeling people, and we have different signs for bathrooms now, and it's just like this whole thing. And no judgment. It's a different society we live in.
Yeah.
And one of the things that showed up in our work is like we were starting to work within our team more about this language that you're talking about, right? How can you talk more about vulnerability, about openness and being sincere and giving people compassion and grace and all these words that normally were not in our workplace. And people were like, you guys are too soft. You can't take criticism. You can't take any comment without making it like you hurt my feelings. What's that about? What's going on? Like, you can't. I don't think. How do I say this? I think that people are looking to put people in two buckets. You're either a hard ass and tough and cold, or you're too emotional, right? And I think there's an intermediary in the workplace. What do you see in the work you're doing, in the way that society is showing up and the way that people interact with each other?
Well, this is again, what's showing up for me and what I'm seeing in the workplace. Thank you for asking that. And again, here I am thinking, who am I going to offend, right? But I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing.
Right? Just speak from the heart.
Right? The truth of the matter is that, what shows up on my desk, right? Some people are complaining that I'm smiling too much. Some people complain I don't smile enough. Some people are upset that I'm giving too much attention. Some people say I don't give enough attention. Do I say something? If I say something, I'm going to get in trouble. Maybe I don't say anything. Oh, no. You cannot not say anything. So again, it's that black and white. It's that how do I survive in this world? If I do this, I get in trouble. If I don't, and we're talking lawsuits here. Somebody got sued for not smiling at them. Right? You didn't smile at me, I'm going to sue you. This was an actual lawsuit. And so what I'm noticing is that there are legitimate reasons, legitimate discrimination cases.
That's not what we're talking about.
Well, that's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about people that try to get under that umbrella and that are actually looking to be offended.
Right.
It's almost like, how can I be offended today? And they're looking for that.
Well, I mean, people need to get off that train, because I always say this is like, no one's going to come and save you. Yeah. Right? If you're looking for a lawsuit to come and save you, there's just a never-ending cycle of misery there.
Yes.
I'm actually pretty blessed with the circle that we have and the people that we have. I'm going to knock on wood. Like, our staff we do a lot of this work that you're talking about. In fact, you work with us. And so we're blessed that we don't have this issue. And if we do, then we're able to get in a room, talk about it, speak from a place of truth and heart and deal with the circumstances, right? But I don't think there's not a path forward if you're looking for victimhood.
Right. So that's the thing, right? That's the one thing that I'm noticing, that there's like this huge, like, that's what's showing up for me. because it's showing up for my clients.
Yeah.
And I want to give them all a hug and say, I get it. I'm so sorry that you're going through this. And,
It's a new world.
Yeah.
It's a new world.
Yeah.
What do you wish you knew 20 years ago?
That everything is temporary. Everything is temporary. And that includes joy. Joy, fear, everything. And so, when you're experiencing fear, we get that, right? You go through the fear. You get through it, and you walk through it, and you do it anyway. When you experience joy, squeeze every moment out of that joy, because that also is temporary, because things happen around you, and things that will try and squeeze that joy out of you. And so enjoy those moments too. Also, I know that we're programmed to protect our ego. Talking about tools that we can take away from this. We are programmed to protect our ego, to not let other people see our vulnerability, to survive in this world. And if I could just invite everyone to just think about and pause for a moment and just think about, how would things be different in certain situations if you didn't have to protect your ego? If you felt that maybe your ego would be okay without your protection, how would you show up differently? What would you say differently? What would you admit?
What's the worst that could happen?
What is the worst that can happen? What would people see? What are you afraid of?
One of the things that you said to me, which was so powerful, you said, well, who cares, because soon you're going to be dead anyways. And I think that, I'm just going to let that sink in for the listener, because I think that we end up creating all of these narratives. And I want people to achieve the maximum amount of abundance, health, success, make as much money as you want. But really, if we don't understand the finite experience we're enjoying here on this planet for less than a speck of time, and realize that sooner or later it doesn't matter, we're going to be dead anyways, then what's the point? So I love that you are able to reflect that to people and live in that truth too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do set a really great example of that.
Thank you.
The executive lion tamer herself. Who tames you?
My family.
Yeah.
They listen to everything I do. They put me in my place. Yeah. They use my tools on me. My kids say, "Oh no, we're starting that over. We're doing that again, Mom." From when they were little.
Do you fall in? I guess maybe in the beginning you did, but do you fall into the trap of coaching the family?
Oh
Sometimes?
My goodness, yes. Yes. And just like my clients, I do not do it unless they invite me to do it. So it's only if they invite me to do it, and I make them get pen and paper, and they become my clients. And they have to pay something into the pot of what we call the tzedakah, which is to give something to charity. So it doesn't go to me, but it goes to charity, and they do have to have skin in the game.
So if I'm listening to the podcast and I didn't listen to the first 40 minutes, and I'm a leader of a business, I'm a manager, I'm a team member, or an entrepreneur, or even just a person trying to be better at my life, right?
Yeah.
What are 3 takeaways from everything that you teach and that can improve people's lives?
I would say the first takeaway is, remember that life is a game. Play it well. It's just a game. So you've got your pieces. Play it.
Yeah.
And don't take everything so seriously. And remember who the people are that are good to you. Remember who the loyal people are, and take care of them on the way up. Take good care of them.
That's such good advice.
Yeah.
That last one especially.
Yeah. Take good care of them because they take care of you. And lastly, you know, watch that ego. Watch that ego. That ego will, that ego will prevent you from doing things that will get you to the next level every time. And it will prevent you from becoming your best self. And even though you might define success in a financial manner or getting the house or the status or whatever it is, honestly, none of that matters. Who do you sleep with at night? Who keeps you warm at night? What are your thoughts when you go to bed? What are your thoughts when you wake up? That's your success.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
What does true richness mean to you?
True richness is not looking backwards and regretting anything.
I want to thank you so much for your time. This was really a great conversation.
Thank you.
I hope to have you again. And I think the listeners, I want to basically give everybody a deliverable to text, email, write to somebody who's made a major impact on their life as they were going up, and just share gratitude and say thank you and I appreciate you. And without you, I perhaps wouldn't have been here, and I just appreciate you being there for me on my way up. That's the to-do from the lesson from Carol.
I love that.
Thank you, darling. Appreciate it.
Thank you.